It's Friday, everyone. What do we do on Fridays here at the Hint Hive? That's right, we smash the patriarchy. Hey there, my unstoppable, unapologetic, fierce as hell women. Welcome back to the Hint Hive, amplifying women's voices. I'm your host, Kelly Hint, queen bee of this particular hive, your feminist life coach and psychotherapist. And today we are diving into something that is quietly shaking the foundations of how we live, eat, work, and connect as women. It's got dirt under its nails, roots in the ground, and a whole lot of power behind it. That's right, we are talking about homesteading. Now, before anyone checks out thinking this episode's about churning butter or running off grid in the woods, pause. Take a deep breath, because today we are reframing homesteading as a feminist act of rebellion, self-sufficiency, and self-healing. Whether you're living in a high-rise, a suburban cul-de-sac, or the middle of nowhere, this movement is for you. Okay, so any of my listeners who follow me on social media, most likely the Cranky Counselor social media account that I have, you probably know that I recently got some chicks. And it inspired me to do this episode because I didn't get chicks because of the price of eggs. That's not why I did it. For the past 10 years or so, I have really wanted to have chickens so that I could have my own eggs. And it's not because of the price. It is about knowing where my food is coming from. I am going to be feeding my chickens all organic, healthy foods, whether it be organic veggie scraps or even their organic grains that they get in the wintertime when they can't free range as much. They're going to be pasture raised. And for anyone who's gone to the grocery store lately, you do know that the price of regular eggs is ridiculous, let alone organic pasture-raised eggs. I've seen them as high as $15. So again, for me, it's not about the money. I'm just super excited because I feel like I'm getting back to my roots and the roots of connecting to the earth. And again, if any of you have followed my Cranky Counselor accounts, you know that I'm super passionate about reconnecting with nature. So I decided, why not do an episode on homesteading? And hopefully you won't hear the chicks peeping in the background. I should be far enough away from them that the microphone won't pick it up. But yes, they're only 2 weeks old, so they're in the house right now. All right, enough about my fabulous chicks. P.S. Okay, so I have 8 of them. And they are all named after, well, most of them are named after very powerful, notable women, whether they be fictional characters or not. Because, of course, I can't not have a feminist flock of chickens. Right now, they're just little peepers, but when they're older, they are the cranky cluckers. So anyway, see, this is what happens when I get passionate about stuff. I ramble. So let me bring it back to the topic at hand, which is homesteading. So what is homesteading? What's it about? Well, at its surface, it looks like growing your own food, preserving, fermenting, baking from scratch, maybe raising chickens or bees, making your own household goods, reducing waste, consuming less, maybe living more sustainably and intentionally, maybe even raising a few animals if you're into it. And no, you do not need 50 acres and a barn to homestead. You can do this on a city balcony, in a suburban backyard, or a plot of rural land. Homesteading is a mindset before it's a lifestyle. And It's about opting out of the consumer machine, where corporations profit off your dependence. It's about reclaiming the skills that society told women weren't valuable or modern. Skills like gardening, herbal medicine, preserving food, all labeled domestic and dismissed, when in reality, they are radical acts of autonomy. And let me tell you, I'll give you a little warning here. Once you jump into this, you have to be careful not to go down the rabbit hole, because for me, honestly, all of this started with some houseplants. I really enjoyed having a little jungle in my house, right? And then I started thinking, oh, maybe I should do some like water collection, rainwater collection, because then I can water the plants with rainwater and I won't be utilizing all this other water. And then that got me back into the chicken stuff. I've been on my husband about wanting chickens for a long time. And we were finally at a place where we could do it, especially after the passing of one of our dogs, who I had been worried would be problematic with the chickens. So, then that got me into thinking about gardening, how to lessen my dependence on the government for food that they are feeding us that is absolute poison and garbage. Our government literally allows us to consume products that cause cancer. So again, be careful, because you could jump down the rabbit hole and we may never see you again, because you truly may go off the grid and be like, F this noise, right? But let's cut deeper into homesteading, because homesteading is agency. It's about reclaiming control in a world where we have been conditioned, especially as women, to outsource everything. We've been taught to hand over nourishment to corporations, our health to broken systems, our time to hustle culture, and our creativity to convenience. Homesteading is the radical act of saying, no, I'll take care of myself. I'll learn the skills. I'll feed myself. I'll create instead of consume. It's about opting out of dependency, one tiny act at a time. And let's also look at the historical piece for a sec, because this wouldn't be the Hint Hive without talking about the patriarchal undercurrent in all of this, right? So traditionally, women's work was unpaid, invisible, expected, right? Running the household, feeding families, sewing clothes, managing the home economy. None of this was valued once industrialization kicked in. Capitalism told us our worth was in buying and producing for profit, not in the unpaid labor of home-based skills. Then came the 50s, where we were shoved into the housewife box, only to have it flipped again in the 70s, with feminism encouraging women to leave the home entirely for, quote, real work. Now hear me. Feminism gave us choice, which is what we deserve. But somewhere along the way, the idea of home skills became associated with oppression. But what happens when we choose these skills, not out of obligation, but out of sovereignty? Because again, it's about choice. When we have our choices taken away from us, we get resentful. So think about the housewives from the 50s that were coming up into the 70s. They were sick and tired of being told that they had to care for the home. They had to do this. They had to serve their man a wonderful dinner on a plate, fetch him a beer while he's watching TV, right? That's where feminism started pushing against that, because women wanted choices. But we have, as somehow seems to happen in society all the time, we have gone way too far onto the other side. This is why living in extremes is ridiculous, and we need to cut the crap. This goes for politics. This goes for religion. This goes to who we are as humans. We have to stop living on the outskirts, in the extremes. We need to come together in the middle. We need to embrace the gray areas of our life. We need to embrace choices. If I want to grow my own vegetables, I should be able to. But nobody should tell me that I have to, as a woman, do gardening. I hope I made that distinction clear enough, because again, this could come off as like anti-feminist, and I'm absolutely not an anti-feminist. But when you think about the evolution of homesteading, suddenly growing tomatoes or learning to ferment isn't domestic drudgery any longer. It's a middle finger to capitalism, environmental destruction, and the systems that profit off our dependence. And if that's not a piece of feminism, I don't know what is. So let's dive a little deeper into why homesteading is a feminist act that actually empowers women. So here's the breakdown. Suddenly, we have control over what nourishes us, right? When you grow your own food, you preserve it, you cook it from scratch, you reclaim your authority over what goes into your body. No chemicals you can't pronounce, no supply chains you don't trust, no marketing ploys. And here's a fun fact. The average piece of produce travels 1,500 miles to reach your plate. Homesteading closes that gap. You get fresh, nutrient-dense local food, and you decide how it's grown. And here's another fun fact that one of the ladies that I work with told me. I was talking to her about how I went apple picking with my son and his wife last fall. And I was saying how we only were going to get like one small bag of apples, and I'm like, no, let's get two. And my husband was like, oh, they're going to go bad. And I'm like, you know what? We ended up getting 2 bags, and I came home, we ate a few, and I immediately made some apple crisp because I didn't want them to go bad. And she started laughing, and she said, Kelly, you do realize that some of the apples that we consume from the grocery store are like 2 years old? It floored me. I had no idea. That alone makes me want to go pick my own stuff or grow my own stuff all the time, because it's just disgusting to me. All right, getting back on topic. Homesteading helps with financial independence and anti-consumerism. And this is very empowering for women. A 2023 USDA report actually found that the average American spends nearly $8,200 a year on food alone. Homesteading slashes this cost. You can feel empowered because homesteading challenges capitalist, patriarchal dependence. Less reliance on corporations equals more personal control. And that's what we're all about here at the Hint Hive, reclaiming our personal control. And not only that, homesteading creates space for creativity and learning. Maybe it starts with a few herb pots and learning to bake bread. Whether it's learning to make sourdough, growing tomatoes, fermenting kombucha, every act is a skill, a craft, and art. And before you know it, you've reduced your grocery bill, you've learned preservation techniques, and you aren't wasting $7 on a tiny jar of jam ever again. And another weird empowering benefit is that homesteading actually fosters resilience. The more you can produce, repair, and sustain on your own, the less you feel at the mercy of unstable systems. And I'm sorry, but in the world we are living in today, there's a lot of instability out there, which is one of the reasons why I feel very confident that at least I'll be able to eat eggs for the rest of my life if my finances tank, right? Okay, that's an exaggeration. I'd have to get more chickens. Anyway, going back, man, I'm getting off topic a little bit today. Sorry about that. I think it happens when I get passionate about stuff. So let's talk about environmental stewardship. Women are often at the front lines of environmental activism, and homesteading naturally aligns with these values. Less plastic packaging, reduced food waste, composting, seed saving. It's about giving back to the earth rather than stripping it. And I'm sorry, but as somebody who is so connected to the earth, that just makes me so happy. And then here's one that's a little out of the box. How about reconnection to cycles? Homesteading, this one's personal, but homesteading really reconnects us to our own cycles because women's bodies operate on cycles. Hormonal, emotional, energetic. Modern life disconnects us from this, expecting us to be, quote, on 24/7. We've been disconnected from seasons, earth, and even our own bodies. Homesteading realigns you with natural rhythms. You plant, you tend, you harvest, seasons guide you. Patience is required. It is the ultimate embodiment practice. Now, here's just a couple of relevant statistics to fire you up about this a little bit. 75% of all homesteaders today are women. Hell yes, ladies. Women are leading this movement, whether it's urban gardens or full-scale homesteads. Another fact. The average American household throws out 30 to 40% of their food. Homesteaders reduce waste by preserving and reusing everything. I thought that this started with my plants, but actually when I think about it, I have to back it up. I started composting. It started because I got really annoyed. Like I would chop peppers and I would see the waste from that. As I would cut up celery, I'm throwing out, like that bottom chunk there that you don't eat. And I'm like, man, that just drives me crazy. And so I got this little container to put on my countertop to put some scraps in. And then I started putting like my used tea leaves in it. And then I bought this little compact countertop composter. And then that led to me buying a compost tumbler for my yard. And now I'm super excited because when I cut up some celery, those scraps, they're going to the chickens. See, this is what I'm talking about when I say when you start this, all of a sudden it just gets bigger and bigger. And that's not a bad thing. Because last fun fact here, food independence equals financial independence. A well-maintained garden can save you a minimum of $600 a year. That is money back in your pocket. Now, I can't let this episode go by without zooming in on mental health. So let's talk about the mental health magic of homesteading. Psychotherapist hat on real quick, because homesteading hits so many therapeutic sweet spots. Studies show that gardening reduces cortisol, which is our stress hormone. It boosts mood and gives a sense of accomplishment. Plus, manual mindful tasks equals meditative focus. Your brain thrives on rhythm and purpose, especially in this chaotic, digital, overloaded world. So, mindfulness, these repetitive tactile tasks like kneading dough, weeding, or preserving jam, it puts us into a state of flow, and suddenly we are very, very mindful about what we're doing. And then the sense of achievement that we get from homesteading, watching something grow literally from seed to plate, boosts self-esteem. Tangible, visible progress is a confidence rocket. Producing something tangible, whether it's veggies or homemade bread, reminds you of your capability. And that, ladies, is priceless. And then the stress reduction piece. Studies show that even 10 minutes of gardening reduces that stress hormone cortisol, and it improves mood. Nature plus routine plus purpose equals grounding AF. And how about self-efficacy? Every skill that you learn tells your brain, I can handle life. And that rewires how you show up everywhere else. Relationships, career, self-talk. Okay, let's talk actionable steps to start your homesteading journey. It's not about moving to a farm. It's about starting where you are with what you have and realizing that you have more agency than you've been told. No overwhelm, no pressure, just steps. Step 1, pick one area. Start where you are. Literally. Food, household goods, skills, pick one. Some examples include starting an herb garden on your windowsill, or start a container garden on your balcony, or start a veggie patch in your backyard. Maybe swap chemical cleaners for homemade vinegar-based ones. Learn to make sourdough starter. It's literally a living, breathing science experiment. So I encourage you to commit to one change this week. Write it down. Go buy one packet of seeds today. Something simple. Basil, lettuce, radishes. Watch it grow. Feel the power. One change. Maybe you reach out to me and ask me for a good recipe for a vinegar-based cleaner instead of something that is filling your lungs with dangerous chemicals. Just pick one. Next, set a homestead budget, even if it's $10. You do not need to invest big. Start small. $5 seed packets, or $10 worth of used canning jars, or spend $0 and make a compost pile from kitchen scraps. So the action for this step, allocate your first homestead investment, because tiny steps build momentum. And action step number 3, schedule skill building days. Once a month, for example, dedicate one Saturday to learning. Learn a preservation skill, canning, dehydrating, fermenting, freezing. Bake some bread. Learn how to sew a reusable tote. Start a composting system. Baking, sewing, herbal tinctures, soap making, composting, whatever you choose. Keep it fun, low pressure, but consistent. Hell, have me come and do an aromatherapy workshop for you and your favorite gal pals. So for this step, maybe you go grab a basic water bath canner, or you look up how to make refrigerator pickles. Easy, quick win. Or look up local workshops, free YouTube tutorials, or books. Get something on the calendar. And then another action step you can take. Reduce and reuse. Ditch plastic. Make your own cleaners. Compost kitchen scraps. So swap one disposable household item for a reusable version this week. I mean, beeswax wraps instead of plastic wrap would be really cool. I'd love to hear about that. And then this last action piece, build community. Ladies, this is crucial because women supporting women equals everything. Join a local gardening club or a barter network or an online homesteading group. Not only will you learn from others, but you'll see how diverse, creative, and empowering this movement is. This week, find a Facebook group, attend a community gardening meetup, or hit up your farmer's market and introduce yourself to one vendor. Because connection equals resilience. And you know what? I lied. Here's one last action step. Reflect on your why. Why would you even consider this? Maybe it's food security. Maybe it's stress relief. Maybe you are a sassy little thing like me and it's sticking it to the patriarchy. So your action piece for this, write down why you want to homestead. Tape it somewhere visible. Let that anchor you. All right, my fierce homesteaders in the making, it's time for our quote of the week. And this one, it's for every woman planting seeds of power. The revolution will not be televised. It will be planted, harvested, preserved, and shared. Well, that quote was from an unknown author, but damn, they nailed it. Because every jar of jam that you preserve, every herb that you grow, every reusable cloth you sew, every skill you reclaim, that is a revolutionary feminist act of autonomy. All right, queens, here's what I want you to do today. Choose one small homesteading step, just one. Start small, but start. Whether it's buying seeds, following a homesteading account, or swapping out a disposable for a reusable, do it. Then share it. Come over to the Hint Hive Facebook group and post it. Let's flood that space with women reclaiming their power. One garden, one loaf of bread, one reusable swap at a time. Let's inspire and hold each other accountable. Hell, we might even find people to barter with in that group. That would be fantastic. Oh my gosh, that just really made me nerd out and get really excited just at the thought of that. That would be amazing. Remember, ladies, this is not about perfection. It is about building resilience, sovereignty, and connection together. Because when women grow things, women grow revolutions. We grow power. And remember, you are capable, you are resilient, and you are the revolution. Until next time, my queens, stay fierce, stay rooted, and keep amplifying those voices. This podcast is powered by Kelly Hint Empowerment Coaching, as well as Kelly M. Hint LMHC and The Cranky Counselor. To find out more about coaching services, head over to CoachKellyHint.com. If you'd like to know more about the psychotherapy services I offer to individuals within the state of New York, you can check out KellyMHint.com. And if you'd like to learn more about aromatherapy, you can check out TheCrankyCounselor.com.